welcome back. This is Coach's Comments presented by Southside Auto Tech. Cristiano Simonetta with you, alongside Stars head coach and GM Cody Chupp. And Cody, your team drops this one 6-3 to the Green Bay Gamblers. What about Green Bay? I know you were an assistant coach from 2014 to 2017. What about this team utilizing their speed not only in transition but just in their own offensive zone on the cycle that makes them so dangerous and that they exploited you guys in the early part of this game?
Yeah, they early on they used their speed effectively, and we wanted the game to be slower. And you look at the goals that we gave up. How many of those started with the puck on our stick in our own zone, where all of a sudden their back pressure or our inability to make a quick, simple play allows them to spend more time in the zone, and then their speed gets to go to work. And now all of a sudden, instead of possession and playing in transition, we're using that energy to chase guys around our own zone again. And I thought in the first half of the first period, that was the name of the game, and our game was stagnant and slow. And then we started to create some chances for ourselves by just being a better version of us, which is quick, and then sustaining time in the offensive zone through using our speed and using our movement. And, these two teams are not totally dissimilar from each other, both in their makeup and in the style that we play. They were better at it for longer tonight than we were. And the frustrating part of this is that we keep having the same conversation. And really what tonight was our inability to establish our identity, to buy into our identity, and the conversation with the guys, it was exactly that. If we keep having this conversation of we got to be us, but we're not us more than we are, who are we? And that's a question that we have to answer for ourselves.
Yeah, it's an identity crisis for your team because it's a conversation that we're going to continue to have because you put yourself in a 4-0 hole. We talk about putting teams up 3 goals. Well, now this was a 4-goal lead for Green Bay. And then you see the response and the resiliency. And it's kind of like you want the guys to think that they're down 3 goals or 4 goals because they'll come in and they'll play with more opportunistic shifts and they'll be quicker in their decision making. It seems like the game is simpler for them when they're trailing. So how can you translate that? I know it's not a question that could be answered in just 2 minutes here or 1 second of your time, but how can you start to build that foundation once again of starting on time and continuing to build once you get a positive scoring chance?
To me, it's a decision that comes from within the locker room to say we're successful when we play a certain way. We like playing that way because we spend a lot of time in the offensive zone and we get more points and all those things we all love. But it's a decision. It's simply that. The fact that we can all of a sudden get to that in the course of a game means that there's no excuse that we shouldn't start that way. And I thought tonight we started a little bit surprised again, a little bit on our heels, a little bit expectant of what could happen instead of dictating and deciding what's going to happen. And it's a huge frustration for us right now is figuring out what makes this group tick to the point where we can start a game, we can play a 60-minute game like we see spurts of.
Towards the end of that third period, and towards the middle of that third period, I should say, even starting with the penalty at 2 minutes by Tony Fulmer. So you get within 1, and then 2 penalties taken by Brad Morrissey. What was the explanation quickly given to you by the officials on that kneeing call? Because we've seen knees throughout this season. Christian Sarlo was given a game misconduct for 1, and you've seen Stars players need throughout the 2019-20 season. It doesn't quite to get to that consistent level, but what did the officials come up to you right after that play?
They said that he stuck his knee out, which I totally disagree with. And there's our league is knee happy right now, and there are so many more kneeing penalties called this year compared to last year. Suspensions are up drastically for knees. I don't know if there was a memo to the officials. I can tell you the GMs didn't get the same memo because the knee penalty it's completely out of control. And there is no onus on the guy being checked to protect himself. If you dive out of the way and that guy doesn't flinch or doesn't move an inch and your legs connect, it's a knee. And I just, I watched the replay from both angles. I didn't think he stuck his knee out. I thought he was in the train tracks. The kid jumped out of the way, which, listen, if you want to do that, then that's okay. But to call a 5 and a game knee on that is weird.
It's a good way to describe this game overall, really, for a 60-minute effort by your team. And then you were forced to kill off that 5 minutes. You got 4:52 of that. So now we'll shift gears to the preparation for tomorrow night. It's a crucial game. Every single game is, through the end of this regular season, points up for grabs. You're 3-4 in your last 7. Is this do or die time for the Lincoln Stars, knowing that if you drop this next one to Green Bay, then you may be looking up in the standings further than you hoped?
Yeah, is it do or die? Yeah, it is. And it's not, our do or die is about how do we figure out how to be the good version of us more frequently, and it's not as much about the standings as realizing potential and living in that potential more frequently, and that's the frustration right now, because I don't think any of us are worried about the standings. What we're trying to figure out right now from a staff standpoint is how do we make this click to the point where these guys are willing and make the decision to play like we're down 3, because when we are down 3, like you mentioned, we're aggressive, we sustain offensive zone time, we're simple through 2 zones, and there's a simplicity to our game in the offensive zone. There's guys that are willing to go into hard areas, and it's like, if you're willing to do that down 4, where the chance of you coming back is not very good, why don't you do it 0-0 so that we can get a lead and just put teams behind us? And it's a tricky thing, and it's I love coaching.
Thanks so much for doing this, Cody. That was Coach's comments presented by Southside Auto Tech. Stars dropped this one of the Gamblers 6-3. They'll be back in action against Green Bay tomorrow night, 7:05 p.m. We'll see you then.